Tonight, we're thrilled to welcome back USC alumnus and co-founder of Box, Aaron Levie. Box's mission is to help businesses of all sizes be more competitive, collaborative, and productive through its cloud storage platform that connects people and their most important information anywhere on any device. Aaron is the visionary behind Box's product and platform strategy, which is focused on incorporating the best of traditional content management with an intuitive user experience suited to the way people collaborate and work today. Seems to be working pretty well. Since its inception, Box has now more than 27 million individual users that work across 240,000 businesses, including GE, Procter & Gamble, Eli Lilly, and Electronic Arts. Their client list is a who's who of business. The industry and media have taken notice. Aaron has been named 30 Under 30 by Forbes magazine, Entrepreneur of the Year by Inc. magazine, Fortune's 40 Under 40 list, Fast Company's Generation Flux leader, and he's consistently ranked on Fast Company's 100 most influential creative people in business. And tonight, he'll be adding to those honors. Please welcome and give a USC welcome to Aaron Levie.
Welcome. Where do you want me?
I'll take that side. You were here in 2005, right?
Yeah, we left. We left December of 2005.
2005. So since then, I mean, the Heritage Hall's been redone, McKay Center's been redone. You'll have to get a tour next time.
These are things I don't even know the names of.
Yeah.
So yes.
So this building didn't exist before.
Got it. Yes. This is a great building, underground building. So very nice.
It's safe no matter what happens. But thanks for being down. I know you got a flight, so we're gonna get through your life. We're gonna talk for about 45 minutes, and then students, we're gonna open it up to your questions to ask Aaron directly, and then we'll close right about 7:45, 7:50. Maybe take some pictures if you can, and then we'll get you to the airport. Sound good?
Brilliant.
Let's go.
Okay.
So before we launch, tell us what Box does in your words before we dive into your life.
So what we do is we try and transform the way that people work. And the way that we do that is we have built a platform that makes it really, really easy to store, share, work with, collaborate around all of your most important data. And so there's really two extremely important assets that any company has. It's their employees and people, and then it's their data, and it's the ideas and the intellectual property that they have either created or are going to create. And so we've built a platform to help them manage all of that data. And so whether it is General Electric that is, needs to collaborate across 100 different countries when they produce new products and they need to be able to deliver new products, or if it's down the street, a movie studio that wants to be able to go produce a new movie, the need to accelerate how you work with content and information, whether it's a set of images, a video, a document, a presentation. How do you store and connect that to all of the important people in that business process? So that's what we do. We build the software for that. And we now work with about 240,000 companies, including about 99% of the Fortune 500 has Box within it. We work in a more sort of sanctioned way with about 40% of the Fortune 500.
Not bad. in only 8-9 years.
Yeah. So the past couple has sort of really ramped up. So it's one of these things where it sort of goes very slowly for about 8 years, and then all of a sudden, the right kind of trends align for your business model and for your market, and then as long as you're there to take advantage of it, then hopefully good things can happen from there. Good.
So I want to talk a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into how you developed and sort of originated the concept for Box, but just a little bit of background and history, since you're pretty close to these guys' ages. Where'd you grow up?
Where'd I grow up? Seattle, Washington. Any Seattleites here?
Go Seahawks.
Okay, the weather's way better down here, isn't it? Yeah.
And brothers and sisters, and what your parents do for work?
This is getting very personal. So basically, my parents were. Are you going to psychoanalyze me right now?
No.
Okay.
It's just always good to see.
So my parents, one was a teacher, the other was a chemical engineer, and my brother and sister, one's in technology, the other is a full-time mother.
Early jobs?
Well, I've never really been employed. So basically, mostly building websites, creating applications, doing various things to make money however I could, and I had 2 internships during college, so I guess that was the closest thing to a real job.
But before college?
Before college.
You did some things in high school, websites,
Yeah,
built some things?
a lot of internet websites stuff.
But when you went to college, you didn't necessarily go for tech, you wanted to be Quentin Tarantino?
Correct. So basically, USC is very good at weeding out people that will not be good filmmakers, and I was one of those. So I applied to film school and did not get in. And again, they are really, really spot on with that. And so when I didn't get into film school, I decided that, okay, maybe making films isn't for me, and I could sort of see objectively why that was the case. But I still wanted to be in the media space. So I figured maybe if we could combine sort of what I had done a lot in high school, which was build websites and do internet experiences, with passion for business, and then you combine the media space in there, maybe you throw all those things into a cauldron and sort of out comes, maybe a career. And so I had tried to take a very sort of broad set of classes at USC. Obviously, something that USC is incredible at, so you can mix a lot of disciplines and take advantage of the different kind of experiences and domains that are out here. And then all the while was interning at Paramount Pictures, and then also at Miramax. And basically, I don't know if people have discovered this or not, but the entertainment industry is very unique. And so basically, through that experience, I realized that not only was I not going to make films directly, I probably also wasn't going to be able to work within the film industry, just because it's a very complicated industry if you're not sort of the cousin or son or daughter of somebody that can help you kind of get ahead. And so as the son of a chemical engineer, really didn't not have a lot of pull in the film biz. So went back to really the roots of kind of middle school and high school, and really focused on technology, and built a bunch of websites that failed miserably, and then eventually we came up with the idea for Box.
So what did you see?
Was that the question?
No, it was
Great.
Exactly. Leads me perfectly into the next one. You've done this before. So
I can see your screen. So.
We're in school, no copying. So where did the idea for Box originate? What did you notice in the market? It was part of a class that you had to analyze a market. And so tell us what you saw and how you sort of developed that concept at USC.
Yeah, so there's sort of 3 important things that all came together at once. So I was taking a business school class, I think by a professor, Professor Kovakovich. I don't know if he's still here that teaches things. Okay, good. And so basically there was a class on marketing. He teaches marketing. Yep. And one of the, I think, sort of groups was to do a sort of analysis of a market. And unfortunately I don't remember much of school, but one of the things was to analyze a market. And I'm sort of jumping ahead, but right before that, I was sort of exploring new ideas to go do. This was sort of middle of 2004, fall of 2004. And what was happening is at work I was interning at Paramount Pictures, and at Paramount, I was one of the world's best people to file papers into cabinets. And so you got really, really good at this process of printing paper and scanning it and then copying it. And then I guess this is probably how Kinko's got started. But basically, so I had to file lots of paper in these cabinets, and then the digital technology they were using was this product called Lotus Notes. Fortunately, if you were born in the 90s, you'll never have to have heard of this. So congratulations. But basically, there's this thing called Lotus Notes. It was horrible to use, and it was really, really painful for sharing data and working with information. And then back on campus, when you're working between lots of different computers and lots of different locations, there was this thing called Levie Library. I don't know if that's still around. Sure. But you're working between lots of computers, the business school, and you're consuming and working with and sharing lots of data. And at school, I don't know what the latest on the tuition that you guys pay these days, but basically, back in the day, it was $40,000 or something. I'm sure it's like $90,000 today, but it was like $40,000, and somehow, I know it went to the football team and everything, but basically. basically, the problem was they didn't seem to want to buy any servers, even though you're paying so much money for tuition. And so they gave you the IT team. Anybody from IT here? Okay, so I can say anything I want now. So the IT group gave you 50 megabytes of email space, and I think it would rotate. So every 6 months, they would delete all of your emails and files because clearly it was too expensive to buy some hard drives. So it was really kind of painful just to even do basic things. So actually, in many respects, the IT incompetence led to Box being developed. But so I guess I have to be thankful to some extent. But basically, what happened was between work where the technology was really painful, between classes where the technology was very painful, and then this serendipitous opportunity where I had a lot of free time. And by free time, I mean because it was a class. I could go study. I could go study a market and try and get credit for studying this market. And so I chose the online storage industry. And so in that process of studying online storage, we basically realized that there were these companies that had existed in the late 90s, the year you guys were born. And so what happened was in the late 90s, there were these companies called XDrive and Driveway and all these websites that would let you store your files. But the problem was that they had launched at a point where it was way too expensive. It was way too cumbersome. The internet was too slow. We had these browsers that were horrible to use. And so they had just launched at the wrong time. And so they emerged at a period of time where you just couldn't be successful delivering online storage or cloud storage at the time. And so we got really lucky because right at the moment that we could go evaluate the landscape was the moment when all these technology factors came together. And so we did this report on the landscape. And the idea wasn't, I don't think the idea was to sort of create a business, but it was to sort of evaluate a market. And through that evaluation, it became really obvious how much of an opportunity this was. And so that was why we decided to start Box.
And the market at the time was pretty fragmented. There was no one doing exactly, well, there were some early people, but you were on the early side. When and what led you to say, this is no longer an assignment for a class, this is going to be real? Was there something that triggered in your mind or an event that sort of led you to feel like this is something that's ripe for the taking?
I think they kind of came in parallel. To probably be fair, we probably eventually decided just to use the class as again a way to focus on the business, and so which was a great opportunity because again I got a free B-, and got to build a startup. So basically. That's a great grade for me. So what happened was it sort of, the first kind of few weeks, they were kind of disconnected, and then they became very quickly connected, and then built a business plan, did the assignment, and then decided to start building the website from there.
And so you've been here 3 years.
It was actually only 1.5.
Oh, it was?
Yeah,
okay.
It was our fall of our sophomore year that we started the company.
And so at what point does it go from class assignment to we are launching this? Was there anything that sort of?
It was, it wasn't like any kind of particular juncture. I had built a couple dozen services before, so it wasn't like a particularly huge leap. The biggest part is actually getting the domain name. So our first domain was called box.net. And the guy wanted like $100,000 or something, $40,000, something like that for the domain name. And so that was actually that was the only real leap was we had to work out a deal where we would pay him $500 a month for his domain name and then have the right to buy it if we eventually were successful. So that was probably that was the most expensive part of starting the company, was getting the name. And then we basically coded it up, got a couple friends, some contract development, and then I built the sort of front end and the interface. We launched it in February of 2005, and then basically from that moment forward, sort of 50% of my time was school. 50% of the time was building the company, marketing it, trying to get more customers, and then it was sort of full on startup mode.
Okay, so before we talk about you taking the leap and leaving, you were a competitor in our first business plan or business competition that had real prize money at stake. Mm-hmm. How did that go?
For who?
For you.
I think for you guys it was fine. For us, we were sort of bitter enemies for years after. So we lost, I think, I don't know how you ranked the bottom, but we were at the bottom. I think you only focused on the top people. So we basically didn't make the top part. We lost, we were just talking about this offline, we lost to, I'm sure a great company, we lost to a thing that made things it was like a fire retardant spray to make things, make them not be able to be kind of flammable, which I would buy today. I mean, if I knew how to buy it, I'd probably buy fire retardant spray. But so that won, I think, that year, and then I'm sure there were some other good companies, and then there was us, but to be fair, actually, I do fondly remember this because I've been conflicted about for quite some time. The feedback we actually got was dead on. So a lot of you guys actually predicted a handful of things that we would run into that ended up being quite astute, and I think what we did to hopefully resolve that was kind of what any entrepreneur or company has to do, is you're constantly sort of pivoting and navigating around the competitive landscape and the things that get thrown at you, and I think you guys were very spot on for a lot of the initial competitive struggles that we had, but yes, so we lost that, unfortunately.
You're off the hook, Lloyd. Lloyd was a judge. He's judged the competition every year, so I was just waiting for him to say, like, yeah, you missed this one, but good advice.
I think you guys don't take equity in the winners, right?
No, we just give prize money.
Yeah, it would have just helped us mostly. But
what would that $25,000 have done for you?
Quite a bit, actually. We raised, we were talking about this also, we raised $80,000 as our first round of funding, and we sold a fourth of the company for that. So, and just to give you a sense of inflation, today, like a decent series, a seed round is like $500,000 to $1 million, and we raised $80,000. So things are a lot better for you guys. Take advantage of it. But yeah, that $20,000 would have, we probably would have been like $1 billion company within the first 6 months or something.
So talk about, this is a big decision. You're at this school, it's expensive. When you decide, tell us when you decided and how you decided to leave.
Actually, I'll tell you something funny.
And what your parents thought.
There's a very high correlation between the cost of the school and it not being a big decision to leave. So basically, that made it actually easier because I was starting to rack up debt. I was at this point in the curve where my personal savings had gone to a point where I was now going into debt mode. And so it was right at this moment where I was like, well, I could either get lots of debt or Mark Cuban had just written us a check and I could just drop out and then we could go work on Box. And so it was kind of right at this convergence of those two lines. But my parents, sort of freaked out a little bit, but it was probably more my co-founder's parents because my co-founder's parents were both lawyers, so they valued kind of deeply education and everything. And then my co-founder was at Duke. We went to high school together, and yeah, it was cool. We pitched Mark Cuban randomly over the internet. He wrote a $350,000 check, and then we basically. It was kind of crazy, actually. You don't do this anymore. Usually you wire money. It's sort of the normal thing to do. But he sent us a check we were living off campus right off of 28th Street. And so if that had gotten into the wrong hands, things could have been very different. So I'm sure there would have been a great A pie party or something. So basically, he sent this check, and we realized that maybe it would be time to really kind of focus on the company full time, and so we decided to actually leave school in the winter of 2005, late fall of 2005, and then move up to Berkeley and then build the company.
And so you get a check from Mark Cuban off a cold email, no introduction.
Yep.
And I also read somewhere that your partner put in $20,000, or you got $20,000. Where did that come from?
Well, we probably rounded up. I think it was probably 15,000, and that was my co-founder. So he was Mr. Moneybags, and he had won about $15,000 by playing online poker. So he was like really, really good at online poker. I always forget if it's legal or illegal to do online poker now. Is it illegal? Are we in the legal or illegal stage? Is it legal? It is? What? California.
Yeah.
Illegal? And what about North Carolina? Illegal. What about like Wisconsin?
And why do you know every state's
exactly.
laws
Yeah.
on gambling
Yeah. What?
is legal?
Nevada. That
Yeah.
would make sense. Okay, so anyway, back in 2003 and 4, it wasn't illegal, and my co-founder was very good at it, and he would have like multiple screens and computer monitors, and he'd be playing like 6 games at once, and it's great because actually, if you, I mean, he thinks about leverage, and so it's great because if you're playing 6 games at once and you win, 55% of the time or whatever. And you're, a couple bucks at a time or $10 and you just go into the right pots. I mean, he basically just compounded his money. And again, back then, $15,000 was a lot of money. So he basically put all of that into Box. And so he ended up funding the company for the first couple of months. And then that's when some angel investors and then Mark Cuban came in.
And so after Mark Cuban and the gambling winnings, what other VCs and prominent investors have joined Box since, and how much have you raised sort of in aggregate?
So we have been through many letters of the alphabet in terms of our fundraising. So we're at like, I literally don't even know the letter. We're maybe like Series F or something like that. It's kind of ridiculous. We've raised about $500 million, and the reason for that is we are going after one of the largest markets in the enterprise IT world. And just to give you a sense, so enterprise IT spending annually is about $4 trillion. And enterprise software is about $320 billion or so. And so, because we help enterprises manage their most important assets, their data, that's one of the most sort of important kind of categories within enterprise software and enterprise technology. So, hundreds of billions of dollars are spent every single year on these IT systems that help enterprises manage their corporate information. And so it's very expensive to build out the technology, the support, the sales, the services to be able to go after these really large enterprises. And so that's why we've, over successive rounds, have raised that capital. But investors that you'd know of, Andreessen Horowitz, Draper Fisher Jurvetson, Bessemer Venture Partners. We have a few strategic investors like Salesforce.com, SAP, an LA investor in the music and media space. So we've sort of been able to find strategic investors and growth investors, all different forms of capital.
So you go from when you started the company to now, and it sounds like one smooth sailing ride. And obviously in between that is 2008, 2009, 2010. Yep. Couldn't have been the best of times for an emerging company, critical time for Box. You were pivoting the company towards enterprise. Yep. in a market that must have been incredibly difficult to raise money. Yep. So was there ever any doubt that you would make it? Did it come close? And as a founder, sort of take us through what that experience was like.
Yeah, so this is where our not award-winning business plan feedback was correct. So the challenge in our market was at the time, and it still is, but we've sort of responded to it strategically. The cost of storage has always declined fairly rapidly. That was actually one of the reasons why we decided to start the company was that we could make this more economical over time. Just to give you a kind of quick sidebar on that, when let's do a quick fun quiz. When we started the company, so this is 2005. How much storage do you think was in a hard drive, like one hard drive? So we built servers and we built sort of the storage infrastructure. How much storage do you think could fit into one hard drive? Just a hard drive like this big.
What year?
2005.
2005? Was it 250 megabytes or something?
Well, who thinks they definitely know the answer? Who's committed? I heard something that was close enough. Half a terabyte, okay. How much? 80 gigs? Okay, what you got? 120 gigs? So basically it was about 200 gigs was a hard drive. So we had to buy these 200 gigabyte hard drives. And today, the hard drives that we put into our infrastructure are 8 terabytes. So, and it costs the same amount of money because it's just about the density in each of these cycles. So it's a 40x cost improvement just in the past 10 years. So that's great because anytime you have a business where the underlying raw unit of sort of raw material goes down by 40x every 10 years, you can do some really cool stuff. The equal effect of that is that is true of your competition as well. So the feedback that we got was Microsoft, Apple, Google, these guys would benefit from those trends as well and eventually give away the service for free, and which ended up being very true. And that it would be very hard as a startup to be competitive. And that's actually fully played out as completely the case. The unique thing that we really stumbled into and then took advantage of was, while the cost has gone down on the consumer side and on the raw material side, it turns out the complexity has gone up for enterprises. Because if you imagine a world of billions of devices that your employees are going to be accessing data from, if you imagine a world where you have to collaborate around the world, and you have to be able to share and move data through very, very kind of critical business processes globally, where there's an explosion of new sources of content and data that you're going to work with, all of these trends actually lead to a more complicated and more complex environment for products like ours, which then directly equate to a significant amount of value. So what we did, starting in about 2007, 2008, was actually focus the company on the enterprise market, where we would actually be able to take advantage of these same trends, but really focus on the software differentiation, where we could uniquely build a product that would marry sort of security and scalability and data control with usability and end user experience in a way that our enterprise competition nor our consumer competition really had the competency to do. And that was what ended up happening. So in 2008, that got even more pronounced as a requirement, because the sort of economic market changed. Raising money became a lot harder. We had to have an even crisper business plan. That business plan had already been kind of emerging and evolving, which was to go after enterprises. And so what we did was decide to kind of really double down in that period, focus on the enterprise. Now, the different challenge at that point was we were 23 and 22 years old, pitching investors that we were going to somehow go take on Microsoft and EMC and Oracle and IBM and collectively $1 trillion worth of sort of market cap. We thought we were going to go attack these guys and change how enterprises use technology. And so then we had another version of this struggle, which was a lot of investors. We had about 25 investors say no to us. And unlike a business plan competition, this is sort of like, if they say no, then you don't have the money, and it's really then it's a big problem. And so we were very lucky because we got lucky that there was an investor that was equally sort of early in his career and was willing to forego the advice that his partners were giving him, which was that this space is going to be won by Microsoft. It's going to be really hard for an independent startup to win. He basically said, we think that this world is going to be different, and that it's going to be a company like Box. Maybe it won't be Box, but it'll be a company like Box that is able to really kind of create this new technology wave. And so he was able to make a bet on us, and that was how we ended up raising our $6 million Series B right in the middle of this sort of economic period of kind of difficulty.
So explain the financial model for the enterprise, for the platform that you're building. Who pays? How do you monetize it?
Oh, people are supposed to pay for this thing?
Yeah, exactly. Most startups do not have that.
So basically, it's fairly straightforward with one unique caveat, which is that our customers pay us on a recurring basis. So sometimes what that leads to is we're willing to invest kind of ahead of the curve because it's a recurring relationship with that customer. So we might spend $2 to acquire a customer that will pay us $1 the first year because we can measure that we're going to have that customer for 3, 5, 7, 10 years, hopefully in perpetuity. And so that creates a unique business model challenge because it means that we have to have venture capital that funds the sort of customer acquisition, and then we sort of rely on building a great customer relationship and great technology to maintain that relationship with the customer. So we've moved from a world where customers pay for all of their technology up front, which is the traditional IT model, to one where they're really paying for a subscription to that software. And then it's your job to make sure that your relationship is as strong as possible and that your software makes them as successful as possible. And then it becomes a very sticky and successful relationship. So the way it works is we have a free service that you can bring into the enterprise. You can download it now. You can start to use it on demand. We have 27 million users that have brought it into the workplace and are using it. At the same time, when you are a company like GE or Eli Lilly or Toyota, what you care about is less how much money does this service cost. You certainly care about that to some degree. You care way more about the security and sensitivity of your data. So for enterprise customers, it is much more critical to have a secure platform than a free platform. So we're able to build out really kind of high security, high robustness technology that we go sell to these large enterprises that then pay for a relationship and the better version of the software to help them manage their data and manage the security around it. And so that's what we have about 39,000 kind of enterprise customers that are paying for the service on an ongoing basis. And that's our business model.
It's sort of interesting because neither you nor Dylan ever really worked for a large enterprise, right? You've never worked in a traditional corporate environment.
Well, I interned at one, yeah. Don't take that away from me.
Yeah, summer internship. And you bet
it's on my LinkedIn.
You bet the company on building a new kind of enterprise software system that's all about how people work, how people collaborate. So what are some of the core principles at Box when designing new products and attracting team members?
So one of the insights that we got really lucky that sort of ended up being true, but we sort of bet on, because as a startup, what you do, the way it works as a startup is you're basically betting on some unique perspective and your belief that there's a lot of people in the world that don't understand something that's about to happen, right? Otherwise, if everybody did, then there wouldn't be room for your startup. So sort of fundamentally, at a minimum, you have to believe something that other people don't believe. And then the hard part of the startup is you have to be right and everybody else has to be wrong. So it's sort of, there are two kind of core factors that have to be true for you to win. You have to be right and you have to believe something that other people don't. And so one of the things that we believed that other people didn't at the time was that whether it was because there's a new generation entering the workplace, whether it was because there was a new set of devices that people were going to work from, whether it was because we wanted to collaborate much more easily across more teams and individuals we were sharing with, that there would be a requirement to have far simpler, far better technology to help you in the enterprise. And that was the bet. And the bet was that consumers would be using all of these great tools in their personal lives and that they would have the exact same requirement when they went to the workplace around how the technology had to work when they were in business. And that was the bet. And so if we were wrong, what would have happened was, by the way, Austin, my voice is going to crack a lot. I don't know why. It's just a thing where I'm losing my voice because I'm talking so much. So it's not because I'm going through puberty. So basically, let me just open up a new water.
Yeah. Let's turn your mic a little bit so
Great.
it's louder.
Please help me. Okay.
There you go. And you can turn him up a little bit so he doesn't have to work so hard.
Great. Now I'm going to whisper. So that won't help. I have to yell just because that's the only way I can talk. So
that's good. It's right there.
Okay. Which is also why I lose my voice. So basically, the bet was that we would be able to build software sustainably that was better, easier to use, more consumer grade than any of our enterprise competition. And the bet was that eventually enterprise, there's a role in an enterprise called the CIO, they're the Chief Information Officer. They control effectively all of the technology spend within a company. And the bet was, unlike what other people thought, we bet that CIOs eventually would value the user experience of the technology that they were enabling their employees to have. And that the past, where they didn't care about that, where they just gave you SAP or IBM or Oracle technology, the bet was that they would stop just sort of going with the typical and traditional vendors, and that eventually they would value user experience, and that as soon as the world valued user experience, we would have a unique point of view on the world that would end up being right, that would be sustainable, because it's a creative sort of advantage. It's the sort of usability and delight that you can bring into this very, very complex business problem of managing corporate information. And so we made that bet, and today, to sustain that, what we need is a different type of employee in the company, and that is either individuals that come from the consumer world that have decided for some reason that they want to go bring consumer-grade experiences and delight to the enterprise, or we need people that haven't sort of been trained to all of the sort of negative issues and problematic issues of the enterprise. So we need individuals that are willing to sort of reimagine what the world is going to look like. And so there's only really two types of people that work at Box. Either people that have never worked in the enterprise, and we have to go teach them about the enterprise, but they bring the consumer experience or a next generation sort of view of the world. Or we have to bring in individuals that are willing to drop everything that they ever imagined about enterprise software and sort of start from scratch and say, how are we going to go build sort of the future of the enterprise? And so those people might come from Oracle, they might come from IBM or Microsoft, but they have to be willing to sort of separate those past beliefs about how the industry worked. And so that's how we hire, that's the culture that we built up. Those are the only people that we can work with, because that is our sustainable advantage. Our sustainable advantage is not what we've done in the past, but our ability to continue to make great software in the future. And the only way you can do that is if you have people that can actually make that go happen. So
that's the best answer I think I've ever heard. That's an awesome answer. That's very well done.
Thank you. Wait, so Will Ferrell didn't have the same answer?
No, he did not.
Shocking.
But he kicked the ball into the audience,
Okay.
so that was good.
You didn't supply me with a ball.
You mentioned workers. How many people now work at Box?
So we have about 1,100 people.
How has your role as CEO changed from 5-10 years ago to now, besides doing more of these talks?
Yeah, I'm not in class half the time, so that's how my job has changed. So what's interesting is, so I think one of the myths that is sort of important to sort of dispel is this notion of what an entrepreneur or what a CEO is, and all of the sort of criteria and factors that we think about when we think about someone who can go lead a company. We sort of, there's sort of this belief, and I had it for the first sort of 5 years, and I struggled with this because I needed to find my own identity and my own skills as a leader. And the myth is that you have to be good at management, you have to be good at leadership, you have to be good at decision making, you have to be good at fundraising, you have to be good at finance, you have to be good at product, you have to be good at all of these things. And I think that's a myth that ends up making it so entrepreneurs sort of struggle with their own sort of perception of what are they good at, what do they need to get good at, how are they going to run their business. And one thing that the Valley has done very well, Silicon Valley has done very well, is getting good at sort of balancing the sort of capabilities of individuals on teams, so you don't necessarily have to be able to be successful at every one of those functions. And I would say that so it's a really interesting example. So I think it was a class on organizational behavior. Is that what it was called?
Sure.
Okay. You guys teach that?
Sure.
Okay. So yet another class that I didn't do well in. So, but basically, as we were growing Box, I was sort of thinking back on our organizational behavior class, and I was like, I went to the class, I did the assignments, I did the multiple choice tests, and yet I'm not good at management. I'm not good at performance reviews. I'm not really good at sort of, slotting people into all these different roles or whatever. And it was this struggle at first where you didn't know, well, is that a core part of the job or not? And over time, I realized what I was fortunate enough to have mentors that helped me realize was your only job as an entrepreneur and as a founder is to make sure your company is successful. And that doesn't mean that you have to do all of the things individually and get good at all of the individual disciplines that make a company successful. It means that you have to be successful at recruiting the people that are going to be good at all those disciplines. It means that you have to be successful at bringing together the different domains and different disciplines that are going to make you have a cohesive or coherent operation. Every company needs amazing managers. Every company needs amazing leaders. Every company needs amazing finance people. You can't short any of those activities. You can't have worst-in-class managers. You can't have worst-in-class finance people in charge of those functions. But what you don't have to have is an individual that is world-class at all of those things. And so what I've decided, and this was about 5 or 6 years ago, was I wanted to get really, really good at things like product, at things like making decisions about the future of the company, around things like how do we go work with our customers and how do we learn about the future and what they're running into and what they're dealing with. And that anything that I did to be a better manager, anything I did to spend time on performance reviews, any time I spent on learning esoteric accounting issues was going to be time away from being world-class at product and being able to work with customers, and you just make decisions about what things are you going to focus on and what things are you going to get leverage from other individuals on helping you with. And so 5 years ago, we brought in a chief operating officer who was actually the person that would help complement the team and really develop all the management skills, the leadership development, the performance management, all of the things that we learned in organizational behavior, but the things that really do take a full-time job at managing and maintaining and continuing to optimize, and something that I wasn't going to be particularly great at or world-class at. And so it's interesting because it sort of feels strange when I have to answer that question, because I probably don't my job is not that different from when we had 4 employees. And it's because my job is to make sure that we are always operating like a startup. We're always thinking about the new trends emerging. We're always working with our best customers to learn about what's changing in their business. And so my job is to make sure that the same level of sort of hunger and drive and entrepreneurship that we had at 4 employees continues to be maintained at 1,100. But the only way you can do that is if you have an infrastructure and a team and a set of individuals that can help you get away with you personally maintaining that startup structure. So that's what I do.
And I can imagine, just listening to the way you think and the pace at which you think, I can imagine it's a pretty challenging work environment to keep up with you.
And is the reason that you're not listening to the way I talk just because of the voice? It's a joke because you said, don't worry about it, guys. Okay.
I'm sorry, I missed it. I missed it.
It's not a big deal. My voice is so bad, so you said listening the way you think.
No, the way
Okay, cool. Yeah.
But so take us through, so you do keep a pretty frenetic pace in your life. Take us through a typical day in your routine. Times you work, what time you go to work, all this stuff. Yeah,
so there's sort of 2 modes that I'm in. One is off-site, and I'm off-site probably about 30 to 40% of my time now. And so, and it's not always very glamorous. So this is the glamorous part. I'm in Indianapolis. No offense to Indianapolis. I'm in Wisconsin. I'm in the sort of weird parts of Florida that you've never been to. So all these places in the country where there are large businesses, and so I spend 30 to 40% of my time on the road working with customers, learning about what's changing in their world, because we're past the point where we can imagine what our customers want from us, where we actually have to go spend time directly with them and learn how is it different to run a hospital from an agriculture business, from a life sciences company, from a manufacturing giant. And it is very different, even though there's patterns across the technology that are shared across all of those companies. So about 30 to 40% of my time is on the road, which basically just means that you're in meetings all day, you're at a lunch with customers, and then you go to the hotel and you pray that they have room service, and then you just start the day again. And so that's on the road. And then when we're at the office, one of the other benefits of being the CEO who kind of can do what they want a little bit is you get to set your own hours. So I generally come into the office around 10:30 a.m. And then that was one part that was really painful about school is you guys, I don't know why you let classes happen before 10:30 a.m. But that also became a real challenge because we'd be working until like 4 or 5 a.m. and then you realize you have a class at 8:30 because apparently that's when professors wake up. So basically get into the office at 10:30 and do I'll just show you, and then you can relay this to the group so you can validate. So this was my Monday.
It is, within every hour there are 4 entries per hour booked completely solid from 9 a.m. and then he's got something at 11 p.m.
So that's, now there's a gap, and that gap is where I nap, and then also where I eat, and you have to have basic sustenance. And then I generally nap and then wake up, and then that's sort of me time. Maybe there's a phone call. I don't know what the 11 o'clock thing was. And then you just do it again. And so that's life at the office. And the reason for that is there's a product meeting, there's a design meeting, there's a partnership meeting, there's a new developer on our platform that's doing some cool stuff we want to learn about. There's a customer phone call. That's the work day. You take a nap, and then you go and think about the future. Maybe you develop a strategy for one of the industries we're going after. It's the time to sort of reflect on and really be able to process what's been going on, and then you do it again.
You're also a voracious reader. Why is that important?
Sort of twofold. One is the great thing about reading biographies and books about businesses, you realize that any horrible problem that you think you're running into, somebody else has run into, and they survived it. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a book on them. And so, so one is like it's just great. Actually, that's not even fully true. I've read a lot of books on just situations that you would not want to find yourself in as a business, like great company that no one will have ever used except for probably 5% of you. This company called Wang Computers, and then another company, a very similar company called Digital Equipment Corporation. And these companies had tens of thousands of employees in the 1980s and early 1990s. And then one shift in computing, the PC comes out, software changes, and then all of a sudden, these businesses are over. So sometimes you want to read those books just to be like, wow, you really don't have it that bad. But also to be able to learn from what was it about the trends that emerged that they missed? Why didn't they build the next generation of technology when they started to see those trends emerge? In making sure that you can kind of connect your own sort of experiences and all the data that you're consuming and trying to see, is there any similarity to those patterns? And then, so it both helps you grow the business and also helps you make sure that you defend against being disrupted. And then it's just great to learn, as much as possible about what other people have historically been through that might have been in your shoes.
Great. This is our last question, and then why don't the students, if you can line up, there are 2 mics in the aisle here. So let's get some questions ready. Don't be shy. Get ready now. What drives you still? I mean, you doing pretty well, company's doing well on growth. What sort of gets you and pushes you through some of the tough times you're talking about? And has that changed over time?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. That part probably has changed. So one is to survive in the technology industry, you need a pretty significant but healthy amount of paranoia, and you need to fear that sort of anything can disrupt you, and sort of at the basis of building your company, you need to fundamentally believe that. And you don't have to, I mean, the simple test is that you shouldn't have to convince yourself about that. Like, if it's happening then naturally it's probably healthy. And you don't realize that at first. At first you're sort of like, well, if I'm so scared of this thing happening, maybe I'm not going to be able to get through this, or maybe I'm not as excited about the idea or whatever. And then you realize that is a healthy, that is a sort of healthy driver and influencer of decision making, of making sure that you're paying attention to all the right things. And then the part where it can be unhealthy is if you let it sort of consume you, versus making sure that it's productive, and that you're translating that into better business decisions, moving faster, et cetera. So one is that paranoia of we always have to move ahead. If we don't, then we will end up like one of these companies that got disrupted. So if you're not ahead of the market, if you're not ahead of the curve, then somebody else will be by definition, because there's a curve. And so you have to make sure that you're constantly going to stay ahead of where the industry is going. And then the other part is you, and this is an important thing to sort of double check as you're building a company, which is you have to be innately, or at least kind of deeply passionate about the thing that you're going after. And you can actually, you can build that passion over time. I think it's a fallacy to think that passion is going to be sort of with you completely on day one. You can sort of build a love for something that you did not know that you were going to love. But we didn't start as an enterprise software company. We grew to love it because of the amount of just intellectually interesting and stimulating experiences around when you learn about how a new drug gets developed, or a new cancer treatment gets created, or a new medical process is going to happen on your platform, or how a movie gets created, all those kind of things happening on your technology. That's the stuff that makes it very exciting and that you can be passionate about, even if you're not inherently passionate about the storage of files. And so what you want to do is make sure that you're doing something that you can continually be excited about, engaged in, but then also have a healthy paranoia to make sure that you're going to be doing and leaping forward in a way that is going to keep you ahead of the market.
I would have loved to see him as a student. I mean, I've never seen.
You probably wouldn't have seen me as a student,
Anyway.
but I would have invited you to my dorm.
I mean, how many people just based about, you can't fake the energy and the authenticity of what you're bringing to this company. How many people honestly would go to work for Box right now following him?
Okay.
Incredible.
Hopefully everybody else would just start a company and it's not like, no, I'd rather work at Google. Yeah.
Good answer. That's a fair answer too. Students, let's get some questions for Aaron.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
I agree, it was really insightful, but we could tell you're a genuine guy, which is humbling, because Box is a is it billion-dollar company now, or?
There's different valuations
Yeah, all right,
out
something
there.
out there, whatever. But I'm also an avid reader, and I was really interested when you said that you're reading autobiographies. So do you have any that you personally recommend that are must-reads? Because I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, so probably less autobiographies because most of these people don't have time to write anything. But in terms of biographies, is there an email list for everybody in here? Or maybe I'll just say a couple things. So first of all, I'm not going to just focus on biographies. I'll give you a bunch of book recommendations.
Perfect.
So are you starting a company or anything?
No, but would love to.
Okay, great. Read the following sort of 5 books. Blue Ocean Strategy, Crossing the Chasm, Innovator's Dilemma, Innovator's Solution, this book called Positioning, and there's a bunch of, I mean, if you go to Amazon, there's great books on Microsoft, Amazon, IBM, Google. There's sort of founding stories of all those companies that are genuinely useful.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
Hi, Aaron. Thanks so much for coming to USC today. I was wondering, there's a phrase you said that's been on posters and all kinds of water bottles, get shit done. And it's something that really...
It's on water bottles?
Yeah, all over
Okay.
the place. And it's something I really identify with.
Is it on fire retardant spray canisters?
I wish.
Okay.
I'd buy that too.
Okay.
Might call it like days I have to be productive, GSD days. I identify with what you say so much. And I'm wondering, were you always this kind of get shit done person your whole life? And if not, when was the moment you realized, I have to be that kind of person?
I think I think one of the, so it's interesting because and this is, so a lot of people will ask like, so you just emailed Mark Cuban and asked for funding, and when I hear that, I don't understand, I don't process the uniqueness, because and people generally think about that as somehow either crazy or risky, or what if he says no, or whatever, and generally the general pattern you have to have is that you just have to realize that, so the part that people don't ask is, how many other emails did you send that didn't get responded to? Or how many people didn't say yes to funding you? And that list is in the hundreds. And it just happened to be that Mark Cuban was crazy enough to say yes, but that everybody else didn't respond. And so the mentality you basically have to have is listen, there's only one way you're going to be successful, and that is if you have enough things kind of click, whether that's your product, the people you hire, the funders that you get. And the only way to do that is if you're just in constant, relentless execution mode. And there's no, there's, the only downside is that it takes a lot of time and it's very tiring. But there's no risk associated with that. There's nothing that is, there's no stigma associated with that. You just have to do it if you're going to be successful. And so then the only thing is, once you understand that you're going to have to be always on, then the only other thing is like, you have to be always on, but you also want to be constantly calibrating and prioritizing, so you're doing the very best and sort of smartest things with your time. But you should sort of never have to worry about, what if this person says no, or what if they don't respond to my email? Like this other thing, like unfortunately, I just don't have a time to respond to a lot of emails that I get, just because there's a lot of different kind of things going on. But there's no harm in emailing anybody, because it's not like anybody's like, I'm going to remember that person emailed me, and I'm going to think that they were an idiot. Like, that's not how it works. Just email everybody, because some people will be crazy enough to respond, and then that will don't email me though. No, I'm kidding. You can email me. But basically, you just there's this great line called ROL, and it's I think I don't know if Jim Collins created it or if he found it and then he kept talking about it. It's called return on luck. So the sort of best entrepreneurs, the best successes, isn't that they were more lucky or less lucky. I mean, there's a lot of circumstantial things and environmental things, but sort of those elements aside, the sort of the best successes were not that somebody got lucky, it's that they got lucky and they exploited that luck. And so, we're all lucky at sort of various moments in our life, and the ability to sort of take advantage of that and then make sure to keep optimizing around that tends to be the differences between outcomes in entrepreneurship. And so that ability to say, okay, an opportunity just landed in my lap. How do I not only take advantage of this opportunity, but what are the direct and indirect consequences of this opportunity that I can continue to maximize? And that you just have to constantly doing that. And it's just, you're constantly looping through, how do I maximize the return on this, this unique situation I found myself in? And so for us, we got lucky that the technology factors related to our industry all sort of converged in the direction of our architecture. That was luck. What wasn't luck, what was kind of hard work on a lot of people's part, was taking advantage of that and making sure we exploited it to its fullest extent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Aaron. Kevin from Cupertino. First off, nice socks. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, we were just talking about your schedule, Monday, 9 to 11 p.m., not responding to some emails. How do you manage to stay on top of your tweets? And I noticed in your Twitter handle, the cover picture had two particular individuals. Were those two role models you looked up to while growing up? Or if not, who were your role models?
Yeah, I mean, so the thing you're referring to is a young Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. And basically, they were absolutely role models on some dimensions. It's hard to say. I mean, when we hear the word role model, we sort of think like universally they are a role model, and I don't think that's the case of any individual. It's more that you learn different things from different individuals, and you connect the sort of best attributes that you want to learn from those individuals. And so there's negative qualities, positive qualities about both of those guys, obviously, and so definitely learned a tremendous amount from both those individuals. As it relates to tweeting, it probably takes less time than it seems. Maybe it's generally I guess. He missed the fact that there were 9 hours of tweeting blocked out on my calendar. Those were all just those were just individual chunks of tweets on my calendar. No, I mean it's a few minutes a day. Thank you.
Hi, Aaron. Thanks for coming out tonight. I actually have a question about your company.
Sure.
I was wondering, how does Box fit into the current ERP suite of today, like the different types of software available? And how do you prepare yourself for the future in this industry, especially considering that the suite as a whole is sort of fragmenting and there are becoming more options and more people are providing different ways at a much more cheap and efficient solution options for different companies?
Yeah, so this is that's totally a trend happening right now, and the reason is that you can start to plug and play software together in a way that you couldn't previously. So it used to be you had to buy all of your technology from a couple vendors because it had like Oracle or Microsoft or IBM, because that was the only way to get it all to work. And actually, I would say that the fragmentation that is happening and the sort of interoperability between technology is a direct driver of our business right now. Because in a world where you just had an ERP suite and a sort of productivity suite, that would be a world that would favor incumbents that would just sell you that full stack. And so the world that we're in now is actually one where you can take Box, you can take Salesforce, you can take Zendesk, you can take parts of Oracle, and you can make all these technologies work together in a very, very unique and sort of compelling way. And so that is actually an enabler of our business right now. It's an enabler of the success of any one of these individual components and companies. So we actually hope this continues to be the trend, and in fact, we would like it to be even more of a trend than it is today. We would rather that a few $100 billion are actually divvied up between 100 companies as opposed to 15. Because if there's 100, then you're going to really start to make decisions at each layer of your technology stack. And we're very confident that our layer is something where we can win, and then we'll expand out from there over time.
Thank you.
Hi, Aaron. First of all, congrats on winning the award tonight.
Cool, thank you.
I just wanted to ask, so I know you mentioned that you were here for a couple of years, and we heard about some of the things that you kind of didn't take away from the classes and apply to your company. So is there anything that you did take away from the classes here? And what do you think about like higher education in general? Because I'm an avid reader myself, and I've been reading Peter Thiel's book, 0 to 1, and he's a big contrarian with higher education. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Keep in mind, Peter Thiel's crazy. So, so just make sure that you keep that in mind. But crazy in the right way for the technology industry, which means that he spots things like Facebook and then makes billions of dollars from that. So, I think that, sorry, was the question what I learned or what I didn't learn?
What you learned and applied to your company, or
oh, I mean, I think that I mean, literally, the thing that I would take, I don't know what the ages of it or what year everybody is or whatever. The thing I would take advantage of at USC is the fact that there's a unique combination of so many different disciplines in one school, and that's not true. I mean, a lot of schools have lots of disciplines. Very few schools have sort of high kind of caliber education in each of those disciplines. And so when I was here, I did film classes and television classes in Annenberg and then obviously business school classes. And then unfortunately they have a lot of kind of core credits that you have to take as well. So basically, to be able to take advantage of all those unique experiences, by definition led to us moving into a lot of these, a lot of the markets that now we've sort of been able to put together a product for. I think there's a lot of, the challenges I dropped out 2.5 years in. So there's a lot I didn't learn that sort of is at the sort of as you, once I literally decided my major and then we dropped out the next semester. So unfortunately, the depth of the curriculum, that I would have experienced, I didn't fully experience. But a lot of the sort of kind of multidiscipline, more creative combination of things, I certainly pull from USC. In terms of higher education, I think the problem is that, so Peter Thiel is very particular around the cost of higher education, and I fundamentally believe that is a huge problem because what we've devised a system that unfortunately creates opportunity for people that either have money or can decide to get money or are in an opportunity or find themselves in an opportunity where they could excel in such a way that was visible, where they would then get some scholarship or whatever. And it sort of unfortunately doesn't make available great education to a lot of underprivileged ecosystems and communities, and I think that's a huge problem. I don't know how to solve that. I don't think Peter Thiel knows how to solve that, but it's just like generically a big problem. I think there's a lot of things that we could do for being able to enrich education throughout your life, as well as bringing in different domains that might not be available because of your physical proximity, but might be available because of the internet. This notion that there likely is some professor at some other university that is world class on one particular topic. There's no reason that we shouldn't pipe that into USC and then allow students from anywhere to be able to have access to that content and have that content help them lead to a different credits or whatever. Like there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to mix and match different kind of content because this notion that somehow just because of the location that you went to should limit the content and curriculum you have access to is obviously a very strange idea in the world of the internet and where we can get information from anywhere. So, these are all the problem statements. I have no idea the solutions to these things. This is, it's very hard, I'd imagine, to be a dean. I would not want that job just because of how complicated it is. And so these are things that hopefully USC is solving.
Thank you.
Hi, Aaron. I just want to say thank you for your incredible generosity and just letting us into kind of how you think and your thought process. I was so excited to hear that you were coming and was blown away that you sent a cold email to Mark Cuban. And I tried to look everywhere for this cold email, for the copy of this cold email. So could you tell us what you wrote in that email, one? And also, if you don't mind sharing, what did you actually spend your money on? Thank you.
Great parties. So launch parties for after the launch party, it was crazy. So I don't even remember what the email said. I don't have it. We changed our email system in like 2008, and I'm not a particularly sentimental person, so I forgot to save the email. It would have been helpful for situations like this, where other people maybe are more sentimental. I'd imagine my English was pretty bad in it anyway, so I wouldn't want to show it. You know, at that age, I probably looked at some of these. I don't like my writing from this age, so you know, missed an apostrophe here, a period there, whatever. So, so basically, it was something along the lines of, "Dear Mr. Cuban," or "Dear Marky Mark," I don't know what I did. We have a startup called Box.net. We would love to introduce you to it. It does online file storage. You know, we're the best company on the planet. I don't know if you've seen this space at all, but I would love to connect or talk to you about it if you ever have a minute. I'm making shit up right now, but like it's roughly like this. If it feels like I would have said something like that, and then I probably said, "Dear, please, sir, send money to this address." And then, you know, a few email exchanges later, a couple phone calls later, some due diligence later, he ended up investing in the company. Was that your question?
Oh, there was actually
Okay.
one more question,
Oh,
if
good.
I may. I was just wondering, what did you actually spend the money on? Like, what did you actually want to
Okay,
spend
you wanted the
money on?
real answer. So, you know, the first and foremost, you can't pay yourself anything as a startup. I think we had $750 a month stipends after we dropped out. And so we would, I was very fortunate to have an uncle that let us live and work for free out of Berkeley in a garage. And so we didn't have any rent expense. We didn't have to pay for that. So we paid ourselves like $750 for food, the occasional sort of matinee movie, and then that was basically it. Like, it's not, you're not going to save money at this period of your life. So it was servers, it was it was contractors for various parts of our technology stack. It was online marketing. It was, you know, we would do, you know, a couple online marketing campaigns. You know, occasionally you might have to get like a designer to go do something that you couldn't produce yourself. That's you know, basically $1,000 here, $1,000 there, and then just the cost of computing, and that was the most, you know, significant expense that we had at the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, so yeah, thanks for coming out, obviously. So I mean, I've got my startup going, and actually one of my co-founders interned at Box this summer.
Who is that?
Connor Fromnecht. Remember him? I don't know. Anyways.
Wait, was he on the security team?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, from MIT. Sweet. Anyways. Yeah,
1,100 employees.
One of the issues.
Wait, how are you starting a company with him? He's not. Is he down here?
No, he's
at MIT, right?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
there's like 4 of us. working
Distributed.
remotely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But we're negotiating our like seed round of funding right now, and I wanted to ask you like what was your like relationship with Mark Cuban as like an investor? I mean, like investor, like was he like involved a lot? Did you?
Wait,
like,
I'm sorry. Did I miss a beat? Are you getting funding from Mark Cuban?
What?
Are you getting
No.
funding from Mark?
We have a couple of investors, and like
Oh.
we're trying to find the trade-off between someone who's going to just give us money and kind of let us run with it versus someone who would maybe like have something to offer specifically in the music entertainment space, which is what we're working in, but like maybe have to give him a little bit more. So I mean, how does that like dynamic kind of work? Like how involved they are? How much do you really think you needed him?
Well, Mark is. I would say Mark aside. I would just say that at the stage you're at, certainly to the extent that you can get a strategic investor that gives you early customer access, early relationships, all of those things I would highly prioritize. One thing I would prioritize though is probably doing, if you're gonna try and get strategic investors or angel investors, I would go after folks that are gonna be specific to your product and kind of customer base, as opposed to people that would just generally be helpful at advising you, because I think there's ways to work with advisors that can be separate from your investors. So you can give advisory shares, you can just work with mentors, and you can keep that separate from the investor side, where at this stage you'd probably want to amass as much of a sort of strategic investor base as you can. I don't know what your startup is, but if there are relationships involved, then that might be one way that you would want to get your investors.
Thanks.
Cool, thanks.
Hi, Aaron. Thank you so much for coming down. We really appreciate it in the Trojan family. So my question is, I was fortunate enough to come and visit Box during the summer. I really admired the vibrant atmosphere of your headquarters, and you had a beautiful slide, and I loved the gong as well. But I was more interested in what role do you see Box playing in regarding issues of national security and the data storage of potentially data that could cause some sort of issues later on, and how do you work with the government over this?
Maybe if you could clarify, because it got very cryptic at the end.
Yeah.
So
basically,
what kind of data would cause issues later on?
Well, no. So how do you work with the government regarding issues that data storage from companies that may have may put national security at risk? Yeah.
Do you know of these companies?
Well, no.
Okay.
I mean, when I visited Box,
Yes.
we
had some of those companies there?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
I was in a class environment, and one of the questions that was asked was, how do you get around the government coming to ask you to remove certain pieces of data,
right,
and transfer them over to their hands,
yep,
so they can see them. How do you work?
No, I've made this way too difficult. Sorry, I apologize. I know exactly what you're asking. So basically, this whole Edward Snowden NSA thing about a year and a half ago blew up. That really related primarily to consumer internet services. The issue of national security was around how potential terrorists would use things like Facebook or Gmail or Skype to communicate their plans. And then the NSA basically wanted the ability to intercept that communication and then potentially subpoena and take over certain kind of data or information around what was going on. So that was the whole news cycle that blew up, and subsequently that's what we've seen about our cell phone providers, these device makers, et cetera. It didn't really relate to the enterprise space because we haven't yet seen B2B platforms be used for terrorist strategizing. I wouldn't put it past them, but so far they've not chosen enterprise-grade storage for that specific initiative. So we were a bit separate from that whole issue. We have a very, very high bar of how we work with the government, and so this wasn't a real issue that we ran into. So it's a theoretical issue. It wasn't something that actually happened in practice with us. And then it's also something that we are investing in technology and policies that will help certain customers that want extra levels of protection to have that kind of protection, whether it's cryptographic or from a legal standpoint, the ability to protect their information. But again, it's more of a theoretical issue as opposed to one that is something that a Salesforce.com or a Box would run into.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have time for one or two more questions because there's three of you. Make them pretty quick.
Okay. Hey, thank you for coming. Did the buying Box.com pay off from Box.net? Is it
Totally.
because 10 years ago, or
wait, what?
Would you still do it if it was right now?
Oh, well, so we didn't get .com until about 5 years ago. And .com was $1 million. So I don't tweet that. I don't think that was supposed to be public information. Please, if you did tweet that, delete the tweet, please. So basically, absolutely, I do that all day long. I mean, you don't want your .com to be owned by somebody who could turn it into a porn website or something. And then Box.net is just not that awesome of a brand. So we like calling it Box and making it simpler. And so you can only do that if you have Box.com.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So Aaron, one of my mentors used to talk about,
for all of us, at some point we die, and when we get buried, there's our gravestone. That dash represents our life.
Very serious mentor.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of.
Is mentor like a rabbi or something? What is the?
There's a purpose to this.
Okay.
So he used to talk about that dash. The dash represents our life, and when you pass away one day and people remember you, what do you want your dash to represent in 1 to 2 sentences?
Yes. Wait, sorry. What's the question? Okay. Okay. Did you say your mentor passed away? No. Okay. Okay.
I'm glad I caught you off guard, though. So that dash, what do you want that dash in 1 to 2 sentences? What do you want that to represent about you?
And is this my tombstone?
Yeah, well, your life, that dash is, I guess, a representation of your life. What do you want your representation of your life to
And is it like 140 characters, or what's my limit here?
You can use a little bit more. We can do 2 sentences, maybe 3 if Dave has time for 3
Was your
sentences.
mentor Jack Dorsey? Oh, that's super tough. Can we swap questions and I'll try and think of the answer?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Because I don't want to give you a stupid answer because it sounds very serious, and I'd hate to say the wrong thing and then I'm like, fuck that. I don't want that to be what you're gonna put on my tombstone, and hold me to that.
So unfortunately, I don't have a question that's deep, but so I know, as you mentioned previously, your days are very, very busy, and I can imagine at Box you have a million things that come across your desk that you must focus on. And so I'm curious to see, how do you keep track of all those tasks? Do you have a to-do list? Do you put it in your calendar? How do you keep track of everything?
Yeah, so a couple things. Basically, I have paper, some paper, and then I write things down on the paper. And then we have this product called Box Notes. I highly recommend you use it. It's totally free, so it works great for your college budget. And it's an online note-taking, real-time user, multi-user thing. And that has checklists now, totally crazy. And so I just keep track of all my tasks on that, on paper. And then my calendar kind of keeps me up to date with stuff. And so you're just trying to always sort of be triaging the different things thrown at you. And then just keeping track of your, the best practice generally, and I don't always keep up with the discipline on this, the best practice generally is sort of what are the things that you just need to go tackle? What are the things that you can put below the line? What are your long-term things that you need to make sure you're making progress on? So it's sort of near-term, long-term, and then the sort of you need to get out of the way list. That's generally what I've heard to be most effective. I'm somewhere within 80% of doing that. But I think better organization, self-improvement on that is something we're all kind of fighting for.
Yeah, thank you.
Fuck.
All right. If you don't have an answer, don't.
Okay.
Why don't you give?
It's more of a question of what do you want to be remembered for in 1 to 2 sentences.
I know, but I just feel like I'm 29. Like I got time. I'm hoping they don't even bury people by the time that I die. Like it's not like ideally we got 60 years left. So I'm sure that something will have happened in the next 60 years that I will rather have been remembered for than anything that I'd be able to answer now.
Cool.
Is that okay?
That's actually a
I
pretty good
apologize.
answer.
Okay, thank you. Okay. How about I want to be remembered for the USC Entrepreneurship Award. So if you could just make sure that is on the tomb, that'd be good.
Whoever's here from CNN and LA Times, please print that.
Okay.
That is awesome. How about some closing words? We've got a lot of people here who are either thinking about or in the process of launching businesses. Just some closing words to advice for young entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just so I have a sense of the group. Who's still in school? Okay, good. All right, good. Stay in school. Very good. I would just say, so I'm going to focus on just that stage because that's sort of how we started Box. So it's still applicable to everybody else, but especially applicable if you're in school because it actually directly relates to being in school. So I would say take advantage of your time right now. And what I mean by that is being able to have, let's say, 14, 16, 18 hours a day that you control your schedule for. This is you're not going to get this ever again. You're going to be busy. There's going to be meetings. There's going to be people. There's going to be, you're going to have a job. There's all these things being thrown at you. But right now, and you might have jobs already, but right now you do have a time where where you can explore different spaces, different ideas, different categories of entrepreneurship, and I would take advantage of that. I think the biggest kind of challenges is sort of thinking that you have to go through some kind of formatted process in your time at college, but really it's a great canvas. It's a 4-year canvas, for some longer than 4 years. It's a canvas where you can sort of build whatever you want, you can create whatever you want, you can start things up as long as they're legal, and I would take advantage of that. And I think when I look back 10 years ago, probably not enough people were taking advantage of that in the sort of peers that I saw, and I think that was there's just opportunity. I mean, perfect example, Sean, the CEO of Tinder, he was always starting things. So we got to know each other in our freshman and sophomore year because we were sort of always running into each other. We never had really brainstormed stuff, but I would always see him starting things. And so being able to take advantage of this time is it's just a unique moment where you can be where you have more control of your life, and you can go build things that you're going to be passionate about, and you can like literally. I launched a dozen things that failed miserably before Box at USC. So it's not like if you haven't created your startup that works like your first time, your second time, your fifth time, that means anything. It just means you haven't yet gotten that opportunity to do the return on luck. So I would just focus on that and hopefully do something that you're really passionate about.
That's great.
Cool.
That's great. So we're going to get him out of here in a second. You'll get a chance to meet him before he leaves. Lloyd, will you please come up on stage and join us to present the Alumni Entrepreneur of the Year Award? Grab that microphone. There you go. Little song on the way in. Lloyd Greif. Let's hear for Lloyd Greif. Tremendous.
Well, it's a good thing I didn't trip over this.
Wow, there's a lot of balls on that thing. What is this thing?
That's your ball right there.
Great, okay, cool.
Sorry you only got one. I got no.
That's fine. This is a great award.
Is this thing working? I guess it is.
Oh, wow.
So we'll get to that in a second.
Okay, cool.
So I didn't think it was possible to be somebody here who would actually outdo Will Ferrell. But I was at the Will Ferrell event, and this guy is 10 times funnier than Will Ferrell. I don't think you guys stop laughing at all. So not only did you get a lot of entrepreneurial education and business advice here, but you got entertained. So for all you folks who decided to skip Game 7, you're lucky. I will also say that in terms of advice, the one thing he didn't say to us, there was a lot of pearls of wisdom in what he had to say. But one that I thought was really important is that you should be in constant, relentless execution mode. And I think that was those 4 words take with you tonight. So this is for Aaron Levie, CEO and founder of box.net/box.com.
Thank you.
And the red dot here, Aaron, is you. So this is the entrepreneur marching to the beat of their own drummer, apart from the crowd. This is a three-dimensional representation of our logo.
This dot got pretty high, though. Who's that guy?
You can pound it down if you want later.
We'll get that back.
The up-and-comer disrupting Box.
We give out 2 awards a year. We give out the Entrepreneur of the Year, and we give out the Alumni Entrepreneur of the Year. And I can tell you the one that we're most proudest of is the Alumni Entrepreneur of the Year, because that's one of our own. And just like everybody else in the audience, you can do what this man did. And I'm going to atone for the fact that 9 years ago we didn't award him something, because we're going to award him something tonight. And we're going to make up for it in big time.
Congratulations.
Great shit. Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Tremendous.